What if the reason you wake up exhausted even after 8 hours of sleep? The reason your muscles cramp at 2 in the morning? The reason you feel anxious for no reason? Your heart races, your head pounds, and your brain feels like it's wrapped in fog. What if none of that is your fault? What if it isn't stress or age or just how you are? What if it's one mineral? A single mineral that your body cannot function without. A mineral that governs over 300 biological processes happening inside you right now. And what if I told you that the modern food system, deliberately or not, stripped that mineral out of your diet so completely that the majority of people walking around today are running on empty and don't even know it? That mineral is magnesium. And today I'm going to show you 20 plants. Plants you can grow, forage, find at any grocery store, or start eating this week that are so loaded with this mineral that our ancestors didn't call them health foods. They called them dinner. Stick around because number 8 on this list was considered so sacred by one of the most powerful empires in human history that they stored alongside gold. And number 19 is a weed that is almost certainly growing in your garden right now. That gram for gram rivals spinach as one of the most mineral-dense plants on earth, and that you've probably been pulling out by the roots and throwing in the trash. We're going to fix that today. Let's get into it. Plant number 1, pumpkin seeds. The mineral pharmacy you've been throwing away. We start with the undisputed king of magnesium rich plants. And I want you to pay attention here because this one is going to make you feel something between amazement and genuine frustration. Ounce for ounce, pumpkin seeds deliver more magnesium than almost any other plant source on earth. About 150 milligrams per ounce. That is roughly 37% of your entire daily magnesium requirement in a single small handful. Let that sit for a moment. One small handful of pumpkin seeds. 37% of your daily requirement. Now here is where the frustration comes in. Every October, across America, millions of families sit around kitchen tables and carve pumpkins. They scoop out the seeds and they throw them away. They literally take one of the most nutrient-dense foods in their home, the food that is sitting right there in their hands, and they drop it in the trash. Our ancestors would not have believed it, because pre-industrial families wasted nothing. Every culture that grew pumpkins dried those seeds, roasted them, stored them through winter. What looked like frugality from the outside was actually precision nutrition from the inside. They were loading their bodies with a mineral that keeps every muscle from cramping, every nerve from misfiring, every heartbeat steady and rhythmic. Here is the mechanism that makes magnesium so essential. Magnesium is the gatekeeper mineral. It sits at the entrance of over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body. Energy production, protein synthesis, muscle contraction, glucose metabolism, DNA repair. None of it happens properly without sufficient magnesium. And when your levels drop, which they do quietly, gradually, without dramatic symptoms at first, every one of those 300 processes starts running inefficiently. You feel as fatigue, as brain fog, as poor sleep, as anxiety, as muscle tension that never fully releases. Pumpkin seeds deliver magnesium in a form your body absorbs efficiently, and they deliver it alongside zinc, iron, healthy fats, and plant-based protein that make the whole package work better together. The practical guidance is this simple. A quarter cup of raw or lightly roasted pumpkin seeds, not the heavily salted processed kind, eaten daily. Add them to salads, blend them into sauces, press them into the top of homemade bread. Eat them plain by the handful. There is no simpler intervention with a bigger mineral payoff. Commercial food production stripped seeds out of our diet. We got the flesh of the fruit and threw away the medicine. Think of pumpkin seeds as a mineral pharmacy that has been sitting in your trash can every autumn. Plant number 2, CHI seeds the ancient runner's fuel. In the canyon lands of northwestern Mexico, there's a people called the Tarahumara, and the Tarahumara are legendary, genuinely legendary, for something that defies modern athletic comprehension. They run, not a marathon, not an ultramarathon, hundreds of miles, through rugged mountain terrain, in sandals made from tire rubber. And the food they carried on those runs was not a protein bar. It was not an electrolyte gel. It was a small leather pouch of chia seeds, about 111 milligrams of magnesium per ounce, plus omega-3 fatty acids, plus fiber, plus calcium, in a package so small and so light it seems impossible that it could sustain a human being through terrain that would destroy a modern trained athlete. Modern sports scientists have spent years studying what the Tarahumara knew intuitively. Magnesium is critical for athletic performance and recovery because it governs muscle function and energy metabolism at the cellular level. When your magnesium drops during intense physical exertion, and it does drop, you sweat out, muscles cramp, energy production falters, and recovery time extends. Chia seeds address all 3 of those problems simultaneously. Here is what makes chia seeds uniquely practical. When you soak them in liquid, they form a thick gel. That gel slows digestion. It creates a sustained, steady release of nutrients over hours rather than a spike and crash. This is exactly why a small pouch of chia could fuel a Tarahumara runner for an entire day of mountain running. Slow burn, steady energy, no wall. 2 tablespoons in your morning water, in your oatmeal, blended into a smoothie. No cooking, no special equipment, no preparation, just a habit worth building today. Chia seeds disappeared from Western diets after the Spanish conquest, which deliberately suppressed indigenous food crops as a tool of cultural destruction. That suppression wasn't just political, it was nutritional. It removed from human civilization foods that had sustained some of the most physically capable human beings ever to walk the earth. Think of chia seeds as the endurance fuel that survived conquest, survived 5 centuries of erasure, and is finally finding its way back to the people who need it. What if the reason you wake up exhausted even after 8 hours of sleep, the reason your muscles cramp at 2 in the morning, the reason you feel anxious for no reason, your heart races, your head pounds, and your brain feels like it's wrapped in fog? What if none of that is your fault? What if it isn't stress or age or just how you are? What if it's one mineral? A single mineral that your body cannot function without. A mineral that governs over 300 biological processes happening inside you right now. And what if I told you that the modern food system, deliberately or not, stripped that mineral out of your diet so completely that the majority of people walking around today are running on empty and don't even know it? That mineral is magnesium. And today I'm going to show you 20 plants. Plants you can grow, forage, find at any grocery store, or start eating this week, that are so loaded with this mineral that our ancestors didn't call them health foods. They called them dinner. Stick around, because number 8 on this list was considered so sacred by one of the most powerful empires in human history that they stored alongside gold. And number 19 is a weed that is almost certainly growing in your garden right now. That gram for gram rival spinach as one of the most mineral-dense plants on earth, and that you've probably been pulling out by the roots and throwing in the trash. We're going to fix that today. Let's get into it. Plant number 1, pumpkin seeds. The mineral pharmacy you've been throwing away. We start with the undisputed king of magnesium rich plants. And I want you to pay attention here, because this one is going to make you feel something between amazement and genuine frustration. Ounce for ounce, pumpkin seeds deliver more magnesium than almost any other plant source on earth. About 150 milligrams per ounce. That is roughly 37% of your entire daily magnesium requirement in a single small handful. Let that sit for a moment. One small handful of pumpkin seeds. 37% of your daily requirement. Now here is where the frustration comes in. Every October, across America, millions of families sit around kitchen tables and carve pumpkins. They scoop out the seeds and they throw them away. They literally take one of the most nutrient-dense foods in their home, the food that is sitting right there in their hands, and they drop it in the trash. Our ancestors would not have believed it, because pre-industrial families wasted nothing. Every culture that grew pumpkins dried those seeds, roasted them, stored them through winter. What looked like frugality from the outside was actually precision nutrition from the inside. They were loading their bodies with a mineral that keeps every muscle from cramping, every nerve from misfiring, every heartbeat steady and rhythmic. Here is the mechanism that makes magnesium so essential. Magnesium is the gatekeeper mineral. It sits at the entrance of over 300 enzymatic reactions in your body: energy production, protein synthesis, muscle contraction, glucose metabolism, DNA repair. None of it happens properly without sufficient magnesium. And when your levels drop, which they do quietly, gradually, without dramatic symptoms at first, every one of those 300 processes starts running inefficiently. You feel it as fatigue, as brain fog, as poor sleep, as anxiety, as muscle tension that never fully releases. Pumpkin seeds deliver magnesium in a form your body absorbs efficiently, and they deliver it alongside zinc, iron, healthy fats, and plant-based protein that make the whole package work better together. The practical guidance is this simple. A quarter cup of raw or lightly roasted pumpkin seeds, not the heavily salted processed kind, eaten daily. Add them to salads, blend them into sauces, press them into the top of homemade bread. Eat them plain by the handful. There is no simpler intervention with a bigger mineral payoff. Commercial food production stripped seeds out of our diet. We got the flesh of the fruit and threw away the medicine. Think of pumpkin seeds as the mineral pharmacy that has been sitting in your trash can every autumn. Plant number 2, CHI seeds the ancient runner's fuel. In the canyon lands of northwestern Mexico, there's a people called the Tarahumara, and the Tarahumara are legendary, genuinely legendary, for something that defies modern athletic comprehension. They run, not a marathon, not an ultramarathon, hundreds of miles, through rugged mountain terrain, in sandals made from tire rubber. And the food they carried on those runs was not a protein bar. It was not an electrolyte gel. It was a small leather pouch of chia seeds, about 111 milligrams of magnesium per ounce, plus omega-3 fatty acids, plus fiber, plus calcium, in a package so small and so light it seems impossible that it could sustain a human being through terrain that would destroy a modern trained athlete. Modern sports scientists have spent years studying what the Tarahumara knew intuitively. Magnesium is critical for athletic performance and recovery, because it governs muscle function and energy metabolism at the cellular level. When your magnesium drops during intense physical exertion, and it does drop, you sweat out, muscles cramp, energy production falters, and recovery time extends. Chia seeds address all three of those problems simultaneously. Here is what makes chia seeds uniquely practical. When you soak them in liquid, they form a thick gel. That gel slows digestion. It creates a sustained, steady release of nutrients over hours rather than a spike and crash. This is exactly why a small pouch of chia could fuel a Tarahumara runner for an entire day of mountain running. Slow burn, steady energy, no wall. 2 tablespoons in your morning water. In your oatmeal, blend it into a smoothie. No cooking, no special equipment, no preparation. Just a habit worth building today. Chia seeds disappeared from Western diets after the Spanish conquest, which deliberately suppressed indigenous food crops as a tool of cultural destruction. That suppression wasn't just political. It was nutritional. It removed from human civilization foods that had sustained some of the most physically capable human beings ever to walk the earth. Think of chia seeds as the endurance fuel that survived conquest, survived 5 centuries of erasure, and is finally finding its way back to the people who need it. Plant number 6. Spinach, the emperor of greens. Every culture that encountered spinach made it central to their medicine. Persian healers in the 7th century called it the king of vegetables and traded it along the Silk Road specifically for its healing properties. Arab physicians prescribed it. It spread across the Islamic world as medicine before it spread as food. And then there is Catherine de' Medici, the Italian noblewoman who became Queen of France in the 16th century and who was, by all historical accounts, so devoted to spinach that she reportedly demanded to be present at every single meal. Her chefs developed so many spinach preparations that an entire culinary tradition was named in her honor. To this day, dishes described as Florentine, meaning prepared in the style of Florence, her birthplace, feature spinach as a central ingredient. A queen's obsession became a culinary legacy that is still in restaurant menus 500 years later. About 78 milligrams of magnesium per half cup cooked. And that word, cooked, matters enormously. A large pile of raw spinach shrinks dramatically when you apply heat. What looks like an enormous portion of raw leaves becomes a small, concentrated, deeply nutritious serving when cooked. You are getting far more nutrition per bite from cooked spinach than from raw spinach in a salad. Here is a mechanism that made spinach legendary across cultures. The combination of magnesium, iron, folate, and vitamin K in spinach addresses multiple body systems at once. Magnesium governs muscle relaxation, blood pressure regulation, and sleep quality. Iron supports oxygen transport. Folate supports cellular repair. Vitamin K supports bone density and cardiovascular health. You are not getting a single nutrient when you eat spinach. You are getting a complete nutritional intervention. Modern research confirms what Persian healers observed 1,000 years ago. Regular leafy green consumption, spinach in particular, is associated with measurably slower cognitive decline with age, better cardiovascular outcomes, and reduced blood pressure. Practical guidance. Eat it cooked, lightly sautéed in olive oil with garlic, added to soups, stirred into pasta, blended into sauces where it becomes invisible and delivers its full nutritional impact without argument from picky eaters. Cooking breaks down oxalic acid, which inhibits mineral absorption in raw spinach and concentrates the magnesium in a smaller, more digestible volume. Think of spinach as the emperor of greens, waiting to be restored to the center of your table. Plant number 7. Swiss chard, the warrior's vegetable. Here is something that I find genuinely remarkable about Roman military history. The Roman legions were the most effective fighting force in the ancient world for over 500 years. They marched extraordinary distances in full armor, carrying heavy equipment. They fought in intense physical combat, and then they camped, recovered, and did it again the next day for months and years at a time. The Roman military machine had a logistic system of enormous sophistication. They were meticulous about what their soldiers ate because they understood empirically, through observation and through the hard feedback of military performance, that food was a foundation of fighting capacity. And Swiss chard was on the list. Roman soldiers on campaign carried dried chard specifically because field commanders had observed, not theorized, observed, that soldiers who ate chard performed better. They had more endurance. They recovered faster. They maintained physical function under conditions that broke men who didn't have access to it. They didn't have the vocabulary of magnesium and electrolytes, but they had 500 years of military observation, and that observation was correct. About 75 milligrams of magnesium per half cup cooked, nearly identical to spinach. But Swiss chard brings something spinach doesn't. Betaine, a compound that reduces homocysteine levels in the blood. Elevated homocysteine is now strongly associated with cardiovascular disease and accelerated cognitive decline. Swiss chard addresses that specific risk factor while simultaneously delivering the magnesium that Roman field commanders valued so much without ever knowing its name. Practical guidance. Treat it exactly like spinach. Sauté it with olive oil and garlic. Add it to bean soups. Fold it into egg dishes. Use it anywhere you would use spinach and expect a slightly earthier, more complex flavor and those dramatic red and yellow stems that make any dish more visually compelling. Think of it as a forgotten warrior's vegetable, built for endurance, waiting for you to remember what it is capable of. We are at 7 plants, and we have not even reached the ones that genuinely shocked me when I researched this. If you are finding this valuable, if you are watching this and feeling like someone is finally telling you the truth about what your body actually needs, please hit that subscribe button right now. This community is growing every single week, and every new subscriber tells YouTube that this information matters and helps it reach the people who need it most. Subscribe, ring the bell. Let's keep going. Plant number 8, black beans, a foundation of civilizations. For thousands of years across Mesoamerica, indigenous agricultural civilizations built their food systems around 3 companion crops: corn, squash, and beans, the 3 sisters. They didn't just grow together by accident or by convenience. They grew together because each one provided something the other 2 couldn't. The corn provided a structure for the beans to climb. The beans fixed nitrogen in the soil that fed the corn and squash. The squash leaves shaded the ground, retaining moisture and preventing weeds. It was an integrated agricultural system of remarkable sophistication, developed over millennia of careful observation, and black beans were the protein and mineral anchor of the entire system. About 60 milligrams of magnesium per half cup boiled, plus fiber that feeds beneficial gut bacteria, plus protein that sustains energy over hours, plus a complex of B vitamins that support neurological function. Black beans are not a side dish. They are a complete healing system in a single ingredient. Here is the science that makes the gut-magnesium connection so important and so underappreciated. Your gut microbiome directly influences how much magnesium you actually absorb from food. Healthy gut bacteria produce short-chain fatty acids that improve your gut lining's ability to pull minerals out of food and into your bloodstream. The fiber in black beans feeds those bacteria, which means black beans don't just deliver magnesium. They improve your capacity to absorb magnesium from everything else you eat. Every meal you eat after a meal with black beans is a slightly more nutritious meal because of what the beans did to your gut environment. Practical guidance. A half cup of black beans 3 to 4 times per week. In soups, in stews, in grain bowls. Seasoned simply and eaten on their own. They store for years as dried beans. They cost almost nothing, and they have sustained human civilization on multiple continents for thousands of years for very good reason. Industrial food culture spent decades selling the idea that beans were poor people's food, something to eat when you couldn't afford meat. That was nutritional propaganda designed to sell more animal protein. The research does not support it. Think of black beans as the foundation of civilizations, ready to become the foundation of your health. Plant number 9, Edamame, 2,000 years of Japanese longevity in a pod. Japan consistently produces some of the longest-lived populations on Earth. The island of Okinawa became famous in longevity research circles for an extraordinary concentration of centenarians, people living past 100 in full cognitive and physical function. Scientists and researchers spent years trying to isolate the variables. What were these people eating? What were they doing that the rest of the industrialized world was not? One food that showed up with remarkable consistency in traditional Japanese rural diets, particularly in summer and harvest season, was edamame, young soybeans eaten fresh, still in the pod, simply salted and eaten by hand. About 50 milligrams of magnesium per half cup. But the number alone doesn't capture what makes edamame genuinely special. Edamame is one of the very few plant foods on Earth that delivers complete protein, all 9 essential amino acids, alongside significant magnesium, folate, and vitamin K2. That last one matters enormously. Vitamin K2 is a specific form of vitamin K that directs calcium into bones and teeth where it belongs rather than into arterial walls where it causes calcification and cardiovascular disease. Here is a specific cardiovascular protection that edamame delivers. Magnesium relaxes blood vessel walls, reducing blood pressure. K2 prevents calcium from depositing in those same blood vessels. Together, these 2 compounds address the 2 most common mechanisms through which cardiovascular disease develops. Traditional Japanese populations eating these foods as staples had some of the lowest rates of cardiovascular disease ever recorded in the industrialized world. Edamame was part of why. Practical guidance. Buy frozen edamame in the shell. Steam for 5 minutes. Salt lightly with good quality sea salt, and eat as a snack or appetizer. This is exactly how it is eaten in Japan. No complicated preparation. No special technique. Just ancestral wisdom in the form of a snack. Think of edamame as 2,000 years of Japanese longevity wisdom waiting for you to crack it open. Plant number 10, Lima beans, the Inca's sacred medicine. Lima beans have an image problem, and I understand why. Generations of American children were presented with a plate of overcooked, gray, mushy Lima beans from a can and told to finish them. And those children grew into adults who decided they wanted nothing to do with Lima beans for the rest of their lives. And in making that decision, They walked away from one of the most nutritionally significant legumes in human history. About 40 milligrams of magnesium per half cup, plus potassium, plus iron, plus zinc, in a package that sustained entire civilizations from Peru to West Africa to the indigenous peoples of North America. Here is the history that most people have never heard. The Inca Empire, one of the most sophisticated agricultural civilizations ever built, spanning thousands of miles of Andean mountain terrain, considered Lima beans a sacred crop. When Spanish conquistadors arrived and documented the great Inca's storehouses, they found Lima beans stored alongside gold and silver. Not by mistake, not by confusion. The Incas stored Lima beans with their most valuable possessions because they understood, over generations of careful agricultural development, that these beans had properties worth protecting at the highest level. The science validates the reverence. Lima beans contain resistant starch, a specific type of carbohydrate that resists digestion in the small intestine, passes into the colon intact, feeds beneficial bacteria there, and creates a slow, sustained, gentle release of energy with zero blood sugar spike. For anyone managing blood sugar, which in the modern world is most people whether they know it or not, Lima beans are genuinely therapeutic food. Practical guidance. Buy dried Lima beans. Soak them overnight. Cook them properly until they are creamy and tender. The texture disaster of your childhood was a cooking problem, not a bean problem. Canned and frozen Lima beans cook to mush because they are already overprocessed. Start from dried. Season generously with garlic, olive oil, fresh herbs, and salt. They are extraordinary when treated with respect. Think of Lima beans as the Inca's sacred medicine, waiting for a cook who knows how to do them justice. Plant number 11, quinoa, the sacred rebuilding food. The Inca called quinoa the mother of all grains. They were almost right. Technically, quinoa is a seed, not a grain, which is part of what makes its nutritional profile so unusual and so complete. About 60 milligrams of magnesium per half cup cooked. Complete protein with all 9 essential amino acids, gluten-free, and a digestibility profile that makes it accessible to people whose digestive systems have been damaged by decades of industrial wheat. Ancient Andean cultures used quinoa specifically as a medicinal food for people recovering from serious illness and for women after childbirth. These are the moments when a human body needs rebuilding at the cellular level, when mineral stores are depleted, when protein is critical for tissue repair, when the digestive system itself may be compromised. And a consistent cultural observation over centuries was that people given quinoa during recovery recovered faster and more completely than those who weren't. Here is the mechanism. Quinoa's complete amino acid profile means your body can immediately use its protein for repair and rebuilding without needing to source complementary amino acids from other foods. Combined with magnesium's role in protein metabolism and cellular energy production, quinoa is a genuine rebuilding food in a way that most grains simply are not. Practical guidance. Rinse it thoroughly before cooking. Quinoa has a natural bitter coating called saponin that must be washed off or your food will taste unpleasantly bitter. Cook it like rice. 2 parts water to 1 part quinoa. Bring to a boil. Reduce to a simmer, cover, and cook for 15 minutes until the water is absorbed and the little white spiral tails have appeared. Use it anywhere you would use rice, couscous, or any other grain. Spanish colonial powers suppressed quinoa cultivation for 500 years for the same reason they suppressed amaranth. Because controlling a people's food supply is one of the most effective tools of domination ever devised. It returned in the late 20th century and was embraced so enthusiastically by Western health food culture that it somehow became trendy, which made it seem less serious as medicine. It was always serious. Think of quinoa as a sacred rebuilding food of mountain civilizations, treating it with the reverence it has always deserved. We are halfway through this list, and if you have made it this far, you are exactly the kind of person this channel exists for. Someone who wants real information about real food and the real history behind it. If you haven't subscribed yet, now is the moment. Hit that subscribe button. Ring the bell so you never miss a new video. We are building something here. A community of people who believe that food is medicine and that wisdom doesn't expire. I would love to have you with us. Now, let's get into the second half, because this is where it gets extraordinary. Plant number 12, avocado, the Aztec vitality food. The Aztec civilization had a name for the avocado tree that roughly translates to testicle tree. And while that translation raises eyebrows in polite modern company, the underlying observation was serious medicine. Avocados were considered a food that restored vitality, rebuilt physical strength, and corrected essential mineral imbalances in the body. About 58 milligrams of magnesium per avocado, plus more potassium than a banana, plus the healthy monounsaturated fats that make fat-soluble vitamins A, D, E, and K, actually absorbable by your body. Because here is something most people don't realize. Those fat-soluble vitamins from all the other plants on this list, from your leafy greens, from your colorful vegetables, cannot be properly absorbed without fat present in the meal. Every time you eat avocado with your vegetables, you are dramatically increasing how much nutrition your body actually extracts from everything else on your plate. Clinical studies show that diets rich in both magnesium and potassium, the precise combination avocados deliver, produce meaningful reductions in blood pressure without pharmaceutical intervention. Magnesium relaxes arterial walls. Potassium counterbalances sodium's blood pressure-raising effects. These two minerals together are more effective than either one alone. Avocado spent most of the 20th century marginalized as a fattening food during the disastrous low-fat dietary era that began in the 1970s and persisted for decades. That guidance was wrong. The research has thoroughly corrected it. The healthy fats in avocados do not make you fat. They make you absorb nutrients. Practical guidance. One avocado every day or every other day. On toast, in salads, in smoothies, plain with salt and lime. This is not a food to limit. It is a food to build a habit around. Think of avocado as the Aztec vitality food that 50 years of bad nutritional science tried and failed to keep down. Plant number 13. Potato with skin, the sacred technology you've been peeling away. Here is the one that surprises people every time without exception. A medium potato with its skin contains about 48 milligrams of magnesium, plus potassium, plus vitamin C, plus vitamin B6, plus resistant starch that feeds your gut bacteria. More of it, remarkably, when a potato is cooled after cooking, which means traditional potato salad made with cooled potatoes was a brilliant gut health intervention that nobody was calling it. Most people have no idea potato is nutritionally significant because for decades we've been peeling potatoes, boiling the nutrients out into water we then discard, deep frying the flesh in refined industrial oils, and declaring the result junk food. We created the problem and then blamed it on the potato. The Inca developed over 3,000 distinct potato varieties over thousands of years of agricultural refinement. 3,000. They weren't breeding for taste alone. They were selecting for nutritional density, disease resistance, cold climate survivability, and the specific qualities that would sustain high-altitude populations through brutal Andean winters. The potato was sacred agricultural technology developed over millennia by one of history's most sophisticated civilizations. And we peel it and throw away the skin. The skin is where a significant portion of the magnesium and fiber lives. The moment you peel a potato, you are peeling away medicine. Practical guidance. Eat the skin. Always. Bake potatoes whole. Roast them whole. Boil them in their skins and eat them unpeeled. The preparation is simpler, not more complicated. The nutrition is dramatically higher. And the flavor of a properly roasted whole potato with crispy skin is categorically superior to a peel-boiled one anyway. Think of the whole potato as one of the most complete healing foods on earth, waiting for someone to simply stop peeling it. Plant number 14. Green peas, the garden's honest everyday medicine. Green peas are the background vegetable of the Western diet, present at almost every meal for generations. Never noticed, never credited with anything remarkable, taken completely for granted. About 31 milligrams of magnesium per half cup, modest on its own. But peas are one of the easiest vegetables to eat in large quantities consistently, which means accumulative magnesium delivery over a week of regular consumption adds up to something genuinely significant. Traditional European garden culture treated peas as a foundational survival crop, not because they were glamorous, but because they could be grown quickly, dried completely, and stored through winter without any special equipment. Dried pea soup was not poor people's food. It was mineral nutrition preservation. It was a way that our great-grandparents maintained adequate magnesium, potassium, and protein to the months when fresh vegetables were simply unavailable. Beyond their magnesium, peas deliver about 4 grams of plant-based protein per half cup. One of the very few vegetables that provides meaningful protein. That protein and magnesium combination works synergistically for muscle maintenance and recovery. Working people and farmers who ate peas regularly were getting a mineral protein pairing their muscles could actually use for repair and sustain function. Practical guidance. Keep frozen peas in your freezer at all times. No fresh peas required. Frozen peas retain their nutritional profile extremely well. Add them to rice, soups, pasta, grain bowls, curries. They require no preparation. They cook in 2 minutes. And they quietly elevate the nutritional profile of virtually any meal they touch. Think of green peas as a garden's honest everyday medicine. Never dramatic, never glamorous. Always delivering exactly what your body needs. Plant number 15. Bananas, humanity's original first aid food. Every culture that cultivated bananas treated them as medicine before they treated them as fruit. In Ayurvedic tradition, the ancient Indian medical system that has been practiced continuously for over 3,000 years, bananas were specifically prescribed for digestive disorders, stomach ulcers, and recovery from illness. In traditional African medicine, every part of the banana plant had documented therapeutic applications. The fruit, the flower, the peel, the root, the stem, an entire pharmacopoeia from a single plant. About 32 milligrams of magnesium per medium banana, not the highest number on this list. But bananas earn their place here for a reason that has nothing to do with their magnesium content alone. They are the most accessible delivery mechanism for this mineral that exists on Earth. No cooking, no preparation, no storage challenges, no refrigeration required. Available in virtually every corner of the planet, naturally packaged for portability, and consumed enthusiastically by people who won't eat a single other item on this list. The combination of magnesium and potassium in bananas is a precise mineral pairing your nervous system and muscles require for proper function. Those notorious nighttime leg cramps that wake people screaming at 2 in the morning, the ones that send people searching desperately for explanations, are very frequently a magnesium-potassium deficit. Clinical research shows that both minerals together are dramatically more effective at addressing cramping than either one alone. Practical guidance: 1 banana daily, in the morning with breakfast, as a pre-workout snack, or specifically in the evening if you're prone to nighttime cramping. The fiber in a ripe banana moderates the glycemic impact of its natural sugars. This is not junk food. This is functional medicine in a yellow peel. Think of the banana as humanity's original first aid food, the one your body already knows exactly what to do with. We have 5 plants left, and I promise you the last 2 on this list are going to genuinely change the way you see the world around you, specifically your garden, your neighborhood, and your grocery store. If you have been watching and you haven't subscribed yet, this is your moment. Hit subscribe. Ring that notification bell. Every week we go deeper into the healing wisdom that your great-grandparents took for granted and that the modern food system tried to make you forget. You deserve this information. Subscribe and make sure you never miss it. Plant number 16, papaya, the healer 3 continents discovered independently. Here is something that should make you stop and think about what plant wisdom actually is. Traditional healers in Central America, traditional healers in Southeast Asia, traditional healers in East Africa. 3 regions separated by thousands of miles of ocean. 3 cultures with no contact with each other for most of human history. And all 3 of them independently arrived at the same conclusion about the same fruit. This is medicine. About 33 milligrams of magnesium per small papaya. But the magnesium in papaya is almost secondary to what else this fruit carries. Papaya contains papain, a proteolytic enzyme that breaks down proteins and has demonstrated measurable anti-inflammatory effects in clinical research. It delivers extraordinary concentrations of vitamin C, beta-carotene, and folate in a package that happens to taste like a tropical morning. Here is what makes papaya's magnesium particularly bioavailable and why traditional healers were so right to use it for recovery from illness. The enzymes in raw papaya improve overall digestive function. They prepare the gut lining to absorb minerals more effectively. When you eat papaya, you're not just getting its own nutrients. You are upgrading your gut's capacity to absorb nutrients from everything you eat afterward. Traditional healers who prescribed papaya after illness weren't just treating symptoms. They were rebuilding the digestive system capacity to heal the whole body from inside out. Practical guidance: eat it raw. Cooking destroys the papain. A quarter of a ripe papaya with a squeeze of lime juice in the morning is a traditional Central American breakfast that has been practiced for generations for reasons that modern nutritional science is still catching up to. Think of papaya as a tropical healer that independent civilizations on 3 continents discovered simultaneously, because its gifts are simply too obvious to miss once you pay attention. Plant number 17, Blackberries, the hedge pharmacy. Before there were pharmacies, there were hedgerows, the dense, thorny bramble borders of the edges of fields along roadsides and forest margins that traditional European and Native American cultures maintained not just as property boundaries and windbreaks, but as living medicine cabinets. The hedgerow was the village pharmacy, and blackberries were among its most valued medicines. About 29 milligrams of magnesium per cup. Modest, but blackberries bring something to this list that none of the other plants deliver quite as powerfully: one of the highest antioxidant profiles of any food on earth. The specific compounds responsible are anthocyanins, the pigments that give blackberries their deep blue-black color. Clinical research has linked regular anthocyanin consumption to reduce markers of systemic inflammation, improve cardiovascular outcomes, and measurably better cognitive function with age. Here is the synergy that makes blackberries worth understanding deeply. Chronic inflammation is one of the primary mechanisms through which magnesium is depleted. When your body is fighting systemic inflammation, it burns through magnesium reserves at an accelerated rate, using it up faster than even a good diet can replace it. Blackberries address both sides of that equation at once. They deliver magnesium while simultaneously reducing the inflammatory burden that would deplete it. Practical guidance: if you have a fence line, a garden border, or any outdoor space at all, plant blackberries this season. A blackberry cane planted once will produce abundantly for decades with minimal care. The flavor of a homegrown or wild harvested blackberry is categorically different from anything in a refrigerated grocery store container. You will not believe they are the same fruit. Think of the wild blackberry as the hedge pharmacy your great-grandmother maintained, because she understood that the best medicine grows where you don't have to plant it. Plant number 18, Acorn squash, the winter medicine. Winter squashes were the food sovereignty crops of indigenous North America. After the autumn harvest, they could be stored in root cellars for months, sustaining families through brutal winters when nothing else grew and nothing else was available. The Haudenosaunee, the Iroquois Confederacy, called squash one of the three sisters alongside corn and beans and treated it with the reverence of a sacred gift from the earth. Acorn squash delivers about 64 milligrams of magnesium per cup cooked and mashed. More magnesium than spinach, more than Swiss chard, more than almost anything in the produce section that people don't already specifically seek out. And yet it sits in grocery stores every autumn, largely ignored by anyone who doesn't already know what to do with it. The thick-walled flesh of acorn squash is also rich in beta-carotene, vitamin C, and potassium, the same cardiovascular protective mineral combination found in avocado. These are the minerals that together support blood pressure regulation, arterial flexibility, and heart function. And winter squash has been a foundational food in indigenous North American cultures that historically had remarkably low rates of hypertension. Practical guidance. Cut it in half. Scoop out the seeds and save them because they are nutritious in their own right. Brush the cut surfaces with olive oil. Season with salt and your choice of herbs or a little maple syrup and cinnamon. Roast cut side down at 400 degrees for 45 minutes until the flesh is completely tender. Eat it straight from the skin with a spoon. There's almost no simpler preparation for a food this nutritionally complete. Think of acorn squash as the winter medicine your ancestors stored in the root cellar, built to sustain you through the cold months with exactly the mineral support your body needs when it needs it most. Plant number 19. Purslane, the weed that has been trying to heal you. I promised you this one at the very beginning, and here it is. There's almost certainly a plant growing in your garden right now, or in the cracks of your sidewalk, or along the edges of your driveway, or in any patch of disturbed soil near your home. That cultures from ancient Greece to traditional China to rural Mexico to the indigenous peoples of North America have prized for centuries as both food and medicine. You have probably been pulling it out by the roots and throwing it in the trash. Purslane, Portulaca oleracea, a low-growing, fleshy stem plant with small paddle-shaped succulent leaves and distinctive reddish stems that grows in dense mats close to the ground. Most gardeners know it only as a weed to be eliminated. About 77 milligrams of magnesium per cup cooked, more magnesium gram for gram than spinach. And purslane is one of the only plant sources on Earth of omega-3 fatty acids in a form called ALA, the same foundational omega-3 found in flaxseed, making it one of the most nutritionally unusual plants that exists. Hippocrates, the father of Western medicine, prescribed purslane for specific ailments. Mahatma Gandhi listed it among his personal favorite foods. Mexican traditional medicine has used it specifically for diabetes management and hypertension for generations. These are not random data points scattered across history. This is a plant that has been independently recognized as healing across unconnected cultures on multiple continents and across thousands of years because its gifts are simply too obvious to ignore once you stop calling it a weed. The combination of magnesium, omega-3 fatty acids, and antioxidant compounds in purslane creates an anti-inflammatory, cardiovascular protective nutritional profile that modern research is only now beginning to fully quantify. Practical guidance. Learn to identify it. Small paddle-shaped succulent leaves, reddish stems, grows flat against the ground in mats. Eat it raw in salads where it's slightly sour. Refreshing flavor adds genuine depth and complexity. Sauté it briefly with garlic and olive oil as a side dish. Add it to soups. In Greece, it is dressed with olive oil and lemon and eaten as a salad. In Mexico, it is cooked with eggs and chiles. In many parts of the world, this is not a forage specialty. This is just Tuesday's dinner. Purslane was reclassified as a weed by industrial agriculture because it competes with cash crops and cannot be harvested by machine. A healing food that grew freely everywhere was transformed into an agricultural nuisance. We are now purchasing supplements to replace the nutrients we pull out of our own gardens every summer. Think of purslane as the weed that has been trying to heal you every single time you have reached for the hoe. Plant number 20, Amaranth, the banned food that outlasted an empire. And we arrive at the most powerful story on this entire list. When Hernán Cortés and the Spanish conquistadors arrived in Mesoamerica in the early 16th century, they encountered the Aztec civilization, one of the most sophisticated, complex, and powerful civilizations in the Americas. And as they systematically dismantled that civilization, destroying its temples, overriding its calendar, burning its libraries, they made one decision that tells you everything about what they feared most. They banned a plant, not a weapon, not a military technology, a plant, amaranth. The Aztec civilization had woven amaranth into the deepest fabric of its cultural and spiritual life. It was a central food crop. It was a central element of religious ceremony. The Aztec mixed amaranth grain with honey and shaped it into figures for ritual observances that were central to their identity as a people. And Cortés, with the clear-eyed strategic thinking of a man who understood that you cannot fully control a people who control their own food supply and their own spiritual life, banned amaranth cultivation under penalty of death. Growing amaranth became a capital crime. You could be executed for planting it. The ban failed. Amaranth survived, hidden in remote mountain communities, carried in small quantities by people who understood that some things are worth risking everything to preserve. And now it grows everywhere, as a grain crop, as a leafy vegetable, as an ornamental plant sold in suburban garden centers under the name Love Lies Bleeding. And most people who walk past it have no idea they're looking at food so important that an empire tried to erase it from human history. About 73 milligrams of magnesium per cup of cooked leaves, a mineral profile that rivals spinach, complete protein in the grain seed, calcium, iron, and vitamins A and C in concentrations that match or exceed the best leafy greens on this list. As a total nutritional system, leaves and seeds together, Amaranth is arguably the single most complete healing plant in existence. Practical guidance. Look for Amaranth growing near you. It grows as a volunteer in disturbed soil and warm climates. It is sold ornamentally as Love Lies Bleeding, tall, dramatic plants with deep red cascading flower heads in many garden centers. Cook the young leaves exactly as you would spinach. Sauté them briefly with olive oil and garlic. Add them to soups and stews. Buy dried amaranth grain and cook it as a hot breakfast porridge. And when you eat it, know what you are eating and what it cost the people who kept it alive. Amaranth did not fade from memory by accident. It was actively, deliberately suppressed by a colonial power that understood something we sometimes forget, that a people who control their own food supply are people who cannot be fully controlled. Amaranth survived because the people who valued it refused to let it disappear even under penalty of death. Think of Amaranth as a banned medicine that outlasted the empire that tried to kill it, waiting here for you to remember what it is and what it can do.